Hi and welcome to this video where I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit more of Hyper-V. So in our last Hyper-V video, we've brought up this server. I went ahead and also brought up this Windows 10 PC just to have a second computer because today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be joining these two computers to a network through the virtual switch in Hyper-V. And then we are actually going to be going ahead in this video and creating a domain. So we're going to be installing Active Directory on our server, and I'll be showing you how to join this Windows 10 PC to that domain. This way in other videos, when we start doing PowerShell remoting or PowerShell with Active Directory, we will already have the environment set up. So let's go ahead and let's get started here. So by default, when we installed Hyper-V, we actually removed the network when we set up the server. But by default, there is a default switch that's created. And this is actually the switch that we're going to be using today. So the first things first is we're going to need to go and right click on our server and click on settings. And then in settings here, I'm just going to try to make this a little bit bigger just so you guys can see it here. Give me one moment here. There you go. All right, so in here, we're going to go into network adapter, and where it says virtual switch, we are going to go ahead and connect that to the default switch. And then we're going to go ahead and click on apply. And we're going to do that for our Windows 10 machine at the same time. So let's go ahead and let's do that here. So now that they're both connected to the switch, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go onto our server first. So let's go ahead and let's do that here, and let's just put that into a full screen. So what we need to do now is we need to first set a static IP address for the server. This way it just doesn't change IP addresses, and it's always easier and recommended setting for setting it up as a domain controller with Active Directory. So let's go ahead and let's click on local server here. And we are going to see that the IPv4 is assigned by DHCP. So we're actually just going to click on this Ethernet here. And then we're going to right click on the Ethernet and we're going to click on properties and just double click on this Internet Protocol version 4. And then we are going to be using our own IP address here. So for me, when I did an IP config on my local computer here, we could actually see that we do have a Ethernet adapter, and we could see that it does have the address of 172.23.32.1. So let's go ahead, and this is going to be our default gateway. And then we also have our subnet mask here. So let's go back here, and we're just going to assign this server the address of 172.23.33, and we are going to do .42. And then the subnet mask here is going to be 255.255.240. And then our default gateway is going to be this. And then for our DNS server, we are actually just going to go ahead and assign it to 127.0.0.1, which is basically saying it's going to be itself. So let's go ahead and let's click OK and click OK. So now we are now ready to install and configure Active Directory. As we can see, we are belonging to a work group. My computer name is RTS 2019. This is basically just my initials, server 2019. So let's go ahead and let's click on Manage up here, and we're going to click on Add Roles and Features. And then we're going to go ahead and click Next. and make sure that you have role-based or feature-based installation selected. Click on Next, and then we're going to be wanting to install it on our computer here. We're just going to click on Next. And then we are going to see here that we have a bunch of roles to pick from. We are going to pick Active Directory Domain Services. And then always make sure to include management tools if applicable. And we're going to click Add Features. And then click on Next. And for features, you can just leave as it is. And then we're going to click on Next here again. And then we are going to select to restart the destination server automatically if required. And then click on Yes. And then we're going to go ahead and click on Install. Now this is going to go ahead and install. This sometimes can take a few minutes. So we'll come back when it is complete. All right, so it is all done here. So we're going to go ahead and click on Close. And then we're going to see here that we do have a post. If you click on the flag up here, you're going to have a post deployment configuration. And we are going to click on Promote this server to a domain controller. And then in here, we are going to click Add a new forest because we're creating a brand new Active Directory domain and forest here. And we're going to pick a root domain name. Now this could be anything you want. It just has to have at least a dot and then an ending to it. So we're going to pick jacked.ca because we do live in Canada. And this is the JackedProgrammer channel. So actually, let's go ahead and let's just do JackedProgrammer.ca here. And we're going to click on Next. And then here we pick the forest and domain functional levels. We're going to leave them as the default of Windows Server 2016. And then we are going to specify domain controller capabilities. We are going to leave it as the default with the DNS server and global catalog. And then here it's going to be type the directory services restore password. Always make sure that you do remember this password. This is an extremely important password to remember in case you ever need to log in to this domain controller as a local administrator. So we're going to go ahead and just put that password in there. And then we are just going to click on Next. And then for DNS delegation options, for this, we can just not, we don't have to put a check in this box. We can just go ahead and click on Next. Now it's going to verify the net BIOS name assigned to the domain. So we're just going to wait here and wait for it to load. It usually takes a little bit here. Now the net BIOS name is sometimes limited. I think it's limited to 15 characters here. So what I'm actually going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and just leave it as jacked.ca here. And we're just going to click on Next. We're just going to leave everything as it was. And here it's going to recalculate the net BIOS name. Now it should just change to jacked, so that's perfect. Well, let's click on Next here. And then just going to specify the locations of our Active Directory database and our log files and the sysvol folder. You could just leave them as the default here. And then we are just going to click on Next, and then it's going to do some prerequisite checks just to make sure that everything looks good on the computer and make sure that it could actually complete the task. So let's just go ahead and let's wait for this to finish here. So we do see that all of the prerequisites have passed successfully. We don't see any problems here. A few warnings, but these warnings don't really matter for us as we are creating our own DNS server at this point in time. And let's go ahead and let's click on install here. So this is going to go ahead and install all the services. This sometimes does take about 5 to 10 minutes, I've noticed in the past. So we are going to go ahead and come back when this is complete. All right, so it is all done here. And we do get a warning that you're about to be signed out. The computer is being restarted because Active Directory Domain Services was installed. So it's going to go ahead and just restart here. So we are just going to wait for it to be restarted. This should just take a few moments. And then when it does restart here, sometimes it does take a little while on the initial restart because it's going to be applying a bunch of settings here. So once it starts to reboot, you'll see that it will be applying computer settings. Now, normally if you were doing this on a server with a bunch of RAM, it normally doesn't take too long. Since this is a virtual machine, sometimes it does take quite a while. In my earlier pass throughs, it sometimes takes about 5 to 10 minutes again. So we are going to go ahead and just let this start the process so you guys can see what it looks like. So this is what you're going to get. This sometimes takes about 5 to 10 minutes to pass. So we are going to go ahead and come back once we get the login screen. All right, so the computer is booted back up now. So the server is up and we can actually see that it is signed into Jacked, which is our domain here. So let's go ahead and let's put in administrator and then put in our password here. All right, so now it's just booting up. So now what we're going to see here, when we go into our local server here, we're going to see that we do have the computer name of RTS 2019 still. We have our domain, which is actually jacked.ca. We can actually see our IP address that we had assigned 172.23.33.42. So that is perfect here. So what we can go ahead and do now, once we have all this, we can actually come in here and we can actually look up for active. And then we are going to see that we do have Active Directory users and computers. So if we go ahead and open that up here, now we do see our domain here, jacked.ca. We have computers, which we have nothing in here because we have not joined a computer yet to this domain. We have domain controller, which we could see that we have our server here. And then in users, we can see that we do have administrator, which is our default account that gets created. We have a bunch of security groups and a disabled guest user, which is fine. What we're going to go ahead and do just for this video here, we're probably not going to be using this account a whole lot in future videos, but let's go ahead and let's just create an account here. We're just going to create it our test, and we are going to create test jacked programmer here, and we're going to put the username here just so you guys can see that it is pretty customized here. We're just going to put YouTube video at jacked.ca, and the logon name is just jacked backslash YouTube video. We're going to click on next here. And we're going to put that the user does have to change the password on next login. And we're just going to put the password as 1234, 1234. And we're going to click on finish here. 1234 does not seem to work here. So we're just going to put test 1234, test 1234. Let's use a good password here, which is going to meet all the requirements. because I believe in Server 2016, the Active Directory default requirements is a complex password. So you're going to require at least an uppercase, a lowercase, and a number or a symbol. So let's go ahead and let's click on next here. So we do have that user now. So what we can go ahead and do now is we are going to join our Windows 10 computer to this domain. So let's go ahead and let's switch to that computer here. So we have the Windows 10 and we do have it connected to the default switch here. It does have to be connected to the same network as our server in order to communicate with it. So let's go ahead and let's just click on sign in here. And it's going to go ahead and sign in. So now what we're going to want to do here is if we go to this PC, right click on that and click on properties. We are going to get into properties. And then if you click on advanced system settings here, and then we're going to go ahead and click on computer name. And then to rename this computer or change its domain or work group, click on change. So we're going to go click on change here. And we are going to become a member of a domain. And we are going to put jacked.ca. Oops, just jacked. Sorry about that. And it's going to ask for a login name. So there we're going to put jacked/administrator. And then we are going to put in our password there. Now this might not work again. I might have to set the IP on this computer as well, but let's just see if this works. It will most likely time out at this point, I'm pretty sure. All right, so we do have an error here. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to check our IP settings. So we're going to open the network adapters here, and we're going to right click on the Ethernet. We're going to click on properties here. And then we're going to go to our IPv4 settings and make sure that we are on the same network. So we're going to put 172.23.30.33, and we're going to put .52 here. And the subnet mask, we're going to put the same as our server. And then the default gateway, we're going to put 172.23.32.1. And then for our DNS server, we are going to put our domain controller IP address, which is 172.23.32.42. And we're going to click on OK here. Click on OK. Now what we should be able to do is we should be able to click on OK here. And we should be able to connect to it. So we're going to change it to jacked.ca here. And then we're going to put jacked.ca /administrator and then put in our password. And then we do have the welcome to the jacked.ca domain. We're going to click on OK here. It's going to say that we need to restart to apply the changes. We're just going to click OK and then close. And we're just going to restart now. So this is going to restart our PC here. But if we actually just quickly flash back over to our server here, and we go into the computer object and we just refresh that here, we can actually see our Windows 10 PC here. So we can actually see that the computer has joined the domain successfully, which we did see that on the computer as well. So it's actually just getting some updates here. So I'm just going to come back once this is all done, and we are going to be able to see that we are able to log in using our YouTube account. I'll see you then. All right, so the computer has rebooted now. So we're going to see that we do get our option for user here, but we can actually select other user here. And we can actually see that we do get the ability to sign into our domain jacked here. So let's go ahead and let's put that YouTube video account, which I believe it was. Let me just double check here, as I don't actually remember the username already. Yeah, so it was YouTube video here. So let's go ahead and let's sign into YouTube video and let's put in the password that I had put there. And then we do get the user does have to change its password before signing in, which is awesome. That's what we said that we wanted. So let's go ahead and let's put in a new password here. All right, password has been changed. So here we do get to sign in remotely. You need the right to sign in to remote desktop services. By default, the members of the remote desktop users have this right. If the group you're in does not have the right, or the right has been removed from this from the remote desktop user group, you need to be granted this manually. So what we're going to go ahead and do actually is we're going to go back on our server here, and we are just going to go ahead and refresh this here. And we are going to add this here into our remote desktop users here. And now if we go ahead and log into this account here, once again, so if we go other user, go ahead and let's actually disconnect here. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually, oh, perfect. So let's go ahead and let's go into this YouTube video account again with the new password. Okay, so it might not have pushed through my accesses just yet for this user here. So let's go ahead and let's log in with the administrator account here. And let's just make sure that we could log in with the user, at least from our domain. And it might be a setting on this computer as well that I might have forgot to enable the remote desktop options for regular users here. But by logging in with a domain administrator account, that should work here. And it'll work for the purpose of this video of just showing you how to connect the computers together. I'm just going to wait for it to log in here. All right, so it is logged in here. And now if we go into this PC and we go into properties, we will be able to see that the full device name is win10pc.jacked.ca. So we know that it is logged in properly into the domain, which is awesome. And here we could go ahead and allow remote connections to this computer here. And let's go ahead and let's add the YouTube video account here. And if we go ahead and we just log out of this account here, and we can go ahead and most likely log in to this account now. There we are. There's our test jacked programmer here, and we are connecting. So oftentimes, especially because we're working with all Hyper-V machines, we aren't working with a physical connection. The computer is always connecting through a remote session. If this was a physical network and you had set up a domain controller, you wouldn't run into so many problems like what I just did here. But that's how you would overcome them, is you give them access to the remote computer, and then they will be able to access it. So in our next videos, we're going to be using this Active Directory domain and forest and these two computers to do some PowerShell remoting. I'm actually going to go ahead and create some more servers before the PowerShell remoting video, just to be able to give you guys some good solid examples on PowerShell remoting. But this is how you set up a server to communicate with a end user computer and set up the Active Directory forest and everything that's related to it, creating a user, getting the user to log in. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, and maybe I can create another video going a little bit more elaborate on those questions. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on my next video.